Welcome back, part two, this week's three-ball walk. We started talking about the trade deadline, got on non-trades that were made with Yasiel Puig, Jeremy from the Phillies, Hellickson didn't go, and a few other players that you had opportunities. But let's talk about the trades that were made. What'd you like?
That disappointed me the most, not what I liked, was the Marlins. Because it just didn't seem that they really, the Andrew Cashner deal, of course, they had to return Chris Ray because he had some kind of elbow problem, and they got Castillo back. But
they got to keep the other.
They got to keep.
They keep the other.
Yeah, I didn't get that at all. But
they keep the other player and the two-player deal.
They kept the other players and they sent one of them back. So basically, the Marlins lost the prospect and a relief pitcher out of the pen.
But I thought the Rangers made out. I really thought the Rangers.
The Marlins. I'll answer the Marlins. The Marlins have never been a team, except for '97 when they wanted to win and whatnot. They signed some free agents. They go for that type of time.
But you have maybe the best pitcher in the National League.
They need
and you have
some
one of the most
starters.
dynamic players in the National League in right field for you.
Their outfield.
It's awesome.
Their outfield.
Yelich is amazing.
So then, where would you have traded to make yourself stronger? What do you, if you were the GM, Bob?
Right.
Okay, what position would you wanted to trade to make you stronger?
Well, I think they need another starting pitcher.
They needed a starting pitcher.
And
that's literally what they need.
Okay,
and I would have gone to Tampa Bay.
But if you're going to have a starting pitcher, what are you going to have to give up to get a number four?
When you're a team that
you're right on the border now.
If you start looking at, you start looking across the board from Ozuna to Yelich to all those guys.
You're going to have to give away
Prado was someone they got in a trade a few years ago. Everyone else, Stanton, they have built up from within. And why should they change that?
Well, I understand.
And you're going to have to give up somebody on that starting 8 to get a starting pitcher. You're going to have to give up a bat, or you're going to have to give up an arm to get a starting pitcher.
Right.
So who are you going to give up? Who would you say, okay, we can ship out in order to get a quality? And if you go for a starting pitcher, are you going for a number 4 pitcher? Or are you going for a number 2 pitcher? Because if you're going for a number 2 pitcher, then you definitely got to give up one of your
And they actually tried to do that.
Right.
And then the guy didn't work out. The Marlins, I think, here's what we got. And a lot of times, I remember when
Ozuna,
a lot of times when people Ozuna's an All-Star game starter.
I know he is.
He started for the National League in the All-Star game.
I know he is.
Yelich is top 5 batting and slugging
but
right
he's
now.
saying that's who you would have given up.
I give Ozuna. I would. That's what I would.
And what? And then played Ichiro in the outfield.
Yep.
Every day, and then by the time you're in the stretch run, he's wiped out.
You got a month and a half. You got a month and a half to go. I think that he can make it a month and a half.
What happens if somebody else gets hurt?
Well, I knew that was coming.
And what do you use pinch hit bat in the 7th, 8th inning when you need a big hit off?
How close are you to the wild card now?
You're in it.
You're in the wild card.
You're in the wild card.
You're number 2 right now.
How close are you to the pennant?
They're
in the East.
Four
out.
back. Yeah.
Okay, so you're 4 out with this roster.
Right.
So you trade a bat and get a pitcher. Is that 4 games better than you are now?
And I'll tell you, and I know it's not.
And that guy's only going to have 4 starts.
A lot of times, you can add without making trades. And in the Marlins case, they just basically they did not make a trade, but in the lineup this week that hasn't been there all year, they just added the 2015 batting and steals champion.
Exactly.
Okay, D. Gordon just got put in the lineup right now.
Right.
You just upgraded the lineup without giving up anything at all.
And
just
you're only
bringing
4
the guy
games
up.
back.
Right.
But again, we talked about that a little bit off air.
Yeah.
Last time is the fact he can't play in the postseason. Right. So even if you get there, now you've got to retool your lineup and reconfigure your lineup. Yep. So if you give away that bat, now you're down 2 bats.
By the way, something that happened with Jason Bohr out right now, he's been hurt and everything. Dietrich, who's the second baseman who's been in the lineup, who now is no longer playing for D. Gordon, they moved him to first base, and he's been playing first base. So that bat is still getting the at-bats, the guy you're going to wind up playing at second if you do make the postseason. So they'll find a way to keep getting him.
I have to admit, I was in Austin, Texas, and so I didn't hear very much about all the trade deadlines. So I'm learning the trades as we're
the
talking
Rangers
back.
made out. I think
the Rangers made out.
Yeah, I think so. Getting LaCroix and getting Beltran. It's going to be interesting. I think Beltran made some good points. he's not only going to be a positive influence at the plate, but helping the younger hitters on the Rangers team. I think the Rangers are
See,
really
and they had, who'd they have in the DH spot? Prince Fielder?
Yep, he's gone for the
And
year.
he's gone for the year. They
Yeah.
basically replaced Prince
their
Fielder with
DH.
Beltran.
That's not a bad.
And-
That's equal parts.
And
maybe,
then Luke,
maybe an
and then
upgrade.
they upgraded it. Pudge isn't catching for the Rangers anymore, right? That
I don't
was
think so.
10 or 15
Yeah, I
years
don't
ago.
think he is.
I think, yeah. It's,
So, you know, they added one of the top hitting catchers in all of baseball with Luke Roy. No, that's a good move.
that's a good move.
Anyone else that you like?
Well, the Red Sox got Pomerantz, and I forget they brought the kid up from Arkansas.
It's Benindetti, right?
Benindetti. It sounds like Ben and Jerry.
And I'm missing
Ben
one.
and-
Well, the Dodgers. I mean, we talked about Puig. Nobody wanted Puig, but they got Rich Hill and they got Josh Reddick. I think that's a good move for them. I don't know if they gave up too much for that or not, because it seems like they gave up an awful lot.
Well,
Look, you're giving up prospects. So here's my thing. Here's my thing.
Right.
If you're giving up prospects, you're giving up unknown.
No, exactly.
You're getting a known for an unknown.
I heard this the other day. It was great. I told Julio, prospects are suspects until they pan out.
Well, yeah.
And exactly right. And
Well,
Hey.
you know what Mike Ditka used to say about prospects, right?
no,
He said it just means they ain't done a damn thing.
that's exactly.
That's what it means.
You know,
When you're talking about-
it's funny because what you're saying about prospects and whatever is, you know, I always go back to 1984 and the Tigers hadn't been in the playoffs for 16 years and they got Doyle Alexander to push them over the hump.
Yeah.
A lot, like we were saying, a lot of those trades you never know
You don't.
until 5 years down the road. If you
Yeah.
just gave up John Smoltz or Lou Brock, or if you gave up Joe Blow.
Right, I mean, think about it. You know, the guy goes, you get a prospect, he goes down, he slides in, rips his ankle up, you never the same
Done.
player. Or you get a pitcher who's the phenom, and you trade for him, and he goes down, throws, and all of a sudden here's a pop in his elbow, and doesn't come back, and so now you've traded a nothing, and not a nobody, but you traded a nothing in terms of a
Yep.
player that's going to help you down the road for a guy who might help the other team get over. So. And then the other way might go too. You get the guy who's the can't miss guy. He's done everything he's done. He gets through you, and he stinks it up. And you get a prospect who comes in and becomes a Hall of Famer. So.
Speaking, hey, I know we weren't going to talk about this, but I know you'll appreciate this since you haven't been following. So, Mike Zunino lifetime against David Price
I have no idea.
In the majors or
in
all the way
major,
back to
in
college?
the major leagues,
Oh, I don't know. He's probably hitting. I don't know.
hitting 100, 1 for 10 with a home run and 9 strikeouts. He's touched the ball one time and went out of the yard.
Right.
So he comes up last night. Okay, the game was the MLB Network,
Okay.
the Mariners, and the Red Sox. He comes up in the third inning. They put the little number there, and takes the ball, looks at strike one, looks at strike two, looks at strike three. Never even swings at anything. I mean, nasty stuff from David Price. But now he's 1 for 11 with 10 strikeouts. 7th inning. Now he's 2 for 12 with 10 strikeouts and 2 home runs.
Wow.
What broke a 1-1 game with a homer? So I mean, is that feast or famine or what?
And it's weird. I think it's weird. Having played, there's just certain things that you just don't see very well, and it's almost like you just say, "Skip, you ought to play somebody else tonight."
But then when you hit the ball, it goes out of the yard.
Well, yeah, but
he's never hit the ball that hasn't left the yard.
he's either strikeout or hit a home run against that guy. So, yeah, maybe.
You take the 2 for 12 if both of them are home runs.
Well, yeah.
He hit the home run.
Well,
I'd rather
yesterday's won
go,
the game.
you know.
Yesterday's won the game.
I'd rather go 4 for 12 with 2 home runs, but yeah, I mean,
That'd be nice.
I'd rather hit 333 with 2 home runs than hitting what is that?
Well, then that's
2?
actually good. 2 for 12 isn't good, but the fact that they're both home runs.
I'd rather go that than 166 and 2 home runs. Yeah, off a pitcher. But there are certain guys,
Yeah.
and they all know that. If you talk to the guys who play, they know certain guys own them, and they know they own certain guys. And it's weird because, you know, I mean, David Price is a good pitcher, but there are a lot of pitchers as good as David Price that you face that you wear out, and then that guy just absolutely owns you, and you can't figure out why, because the ball's still a ball, and it comes out of a left-handed slot, and you see it coming out of a left-handed slot, and you got all the charts, and you know all the pitches. There's something about that guy that you cannot get it.
We can go 2 different ways now for the last 4 or 5 minutes. 1, the young, up and coming who you've never seen, or 2, the guys whose careers are over and got into the Hall of Fame last week. Where do you want to go?
Let's go Hall of Fame
Hall of
before it gets too far away.
Okay, and I'll tell you, and it's funny, the guys you own, during the Hall of Fame inductions, I'm watching, and Al Leiter was on the show, and Ken Griffey Jr. and whatnot, and it came up about how they had faced each other. And Griffey says, he goes, he might have hit a home run off of me or whatever, and Griffey says, September 4th, 1994, I was with the Mariners, you were with the Blue Jays, and I took you whatever. They looked it up, and on that date, he hit a home run.
Yeah.
Is that knowing who you own? And who
Yeah.
No, I think those guys, most guys know those things.
but the date.
I know. Some days are just stick out, and some guys just have those kind of memories. They just remember. And plus, he might have known that Al Leiter was going to be on the show, and so he looked it up beforehand, and so he has that date. But Ken Griffey, to me, was a no doubter as to where he was going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, he was.
Well, and he said it.
Such
He goes,
a sweet skills. I mean, he just made he made the comment that people said I made the game look easy when it wasn't, and that's true. And I think that's the mark to me of greatness, when you can make a position look like it's no big deal when you know everybody else struggles. And he did it year after year after year after year. And if he had played in a big market,
oh, well, he was almost a unanimous Hall of Fame pick, most votes ever. So
Right,
there's
but I mean-
nothing as far as the PR and
but
the promotions.
but
and
there's
everything.
still people that go, wow, Ken Griffey. If you're not a baseball fan, you don't know Ken Griffey Jr.
Right.
But you should. You should, from the way that he carried
And I'll
himself
tell you,
and the way that he did.
there were two interesting things, and one with Harold Reynolds saying, and it's kind of what you said, he's home, and this is where we knew he was going to wind up from the first day he played. And then Leiter brought up the fact that he missed 482 games in his career, which is 3 full seasons with injuries. And Harold Reynolds came back with, well, I know as a 19-year-old, he was so major league ready that I always felt he lost 3 major league seasons to high school. Is that a compliment?
Yeah.
You lost
Yeah.
3 major league seasons to high school.
Yeah, if he'd have been an international player, he might have been there
From
by the time
16,
16 on.
he'd have been in the big leagues.
Or at least 18, he would have been there. And the other player that was selected was
Mike Piazza.
Mike Piazza. Now, see, that one to me is one that
No, Piazza's
The
home.
most prolific offensive
Hitting
catcher of all time.
right.
More
But okay,
home
so
runs and
Piazza's in that era.
Yeah, he is.
He is.
And that's
He's in that era. Now, he never was tested positive, but he's in that era, and he was a catcher.
And that's why we need to get over that stigma.
who maintained his health fairly well through everything.
I got to make one comment
You
on
wanna-
Ken Griffey real quick. Ken Griffey, it's not coincidental that Ken Griffey came along and Upper Deck exploded with their baseball cards, because he was the first card they produced. And to have a guy who was a rookie, who was just basically made Upper Deck, in my opinion, a collectible. The cards look different, but Ken Griffey Jr. made Upper Deck to
Yeah,
me.
as far as you with the memorabilia. The interesting thing was, as a father of a high school player, and actually, I don't know if you know, right before he left town, I ran into Eddie at Sports Authority with the clearance. And what were you buying?
I bought a glove from my 2-year-old grandson.
There you have it. See, it was there. And this is so neat. And watching the grandfather, and whatnot,
Yep.
seeing Ken Griffey Sr. and seeing Vince Piazza
Yep.
made the entire show.
It did.
And
Yeah.
it brought baseball to its roots.
Yeah, but don't get me wrong. I think Piazza was a good catcher. I think he was good. I'm just not. I'm just,
So do you
He
think
was
next
the
year Ron
rookie of the
Rodriguez should
year,
get it?
and for
what?
Do you think Ron Rodriguez should get it next year?
I think you ought to just throw away this whole steroid thing. And if you never were popped, you never have been convicted, you never have been suspended, put it away. And
There you go. Then
either-
what?
you
Then
either are or
Piazza's
you
in.
aren't.
You're saying he's not a Hall of Famer with his numbers? He was the best catcher in baseball for 9 years.
Yeah,
Best hitting catcher
Best hitting
of all
catcher.
time.
Best hitting catcher. I'm not so sure he was the best catcher.
Well, and he said he was so humble.
He was.
With
Well, he
Johnny
should have been
Bench.
where he was drafted and how he got there. Yeah, but there again, I mean, I'll give him this. He probably worked harder than anybody else who's in the Hall of Fame to get there, because he certainly was not expected to be anything other than a courtesy signing to a friend.
Yep.
But you know what?
He proved them all wrong.
It was interesting because they were talking when he thanked and congratulated Tony Gwynn, who obviously wasn't there, and Rod Carew on having the awards, the batting titles named for each of them respectively. He said it, and Tony was someone that cost me 3 batting titles, and you forget that he wasn't a power guy.
Right.
He was a 340 hitter.
Yeah, you forget
there.
that.
I mean, he could
I forgot that,
out
yeah.
rake.
Well, it's hard to believe that time is gone. We had a little technical issue in the middle, so if you see a gap there and the conversation jumps, it was our fault. But we hope that you'll join us next week. We hope you go out and play some baseball this week, watch some baseball. Next week we'll talk about Story being no Story.
Story,
anymore.
no longer Story.
Story, come and see us.
Our new replacement guy is going to be Hunter Ruth, and we'll start talking about Hunter Ruth instead of Trevor Story, because Trevor Story is
no longer playing this year.
enough.
Have a great week. See ya.